This presentation is on the culture of Hmong Americans. It's focused on the religious practices of shamanism and its relation to healthcare. It's brought to you by the 4 students listed below.
The Hmong people are originally from mountainous regions of Southeast Asia and China. They came to the United States as refugees after serving in the U.S. military in the Vietnam War in the late 1970s. They started off on the western side and slowly made their way to the east, finding their way to North Carolina by the 1990s. The census for Hmong Americans has gone up in the last 16 years from 186,000 to 260,000 in the U.S. About 6% live here in North Carolina today.
We said earlier that the Hmong people immigrated to the U.S. as a result of the Vietnam War. When they left during wartime, they fled their homeland to escape persecution because they helped the Americans instead of the communists that were in Vietnam. But when they came to America, they left behind everything. And in a culture that practices animism and believes in the worship of ancestors, leaving behind your ancestors is a really big deal. So when I say they left behind everything, they really left behind everything.
Genetic evidence shows that Hmong people lived in China for 2,000 years before migrating south in the 1700s. Currently, majority of the Hmong people still live in southwestern China, which is about 8 million people. Another 4 million live in Southeast Asian countries such as Thailand, Burma, Laos, and Vietnam. These countries are where they migrated during the 19th century following centuries of persecution in China.
The next piece of content that we need to address is explanation of the health-related issue. And the health-related issue that we chose was shamanism. And this is going to be a comprehensive description. What is shamanism? Especially what is shamanism as it relates to the Hmong people? Um, Hmong populations have traditionally practiced animism, and animism is a belief system that each living thing has its own soul or spirit. In the literature that I looked up, the term soul and spirit are specifically used in certain contexts because usually soul refers to the spirit of a person, and a spirit could be a spirit of any living creature, like a pig or a tree or whatever. And the picture that I included on the slide was a representation of a tiger spirit inside of a man. So the last slide had a tiger spirit inside of a man, and that's part of one of the Hmong people's beliefs that the human body is the host to several souls or spirits, and that health can be restored by restoring the integrity of the group. So if you have a bunch of spirits that live inside of a person, if there's not harmony between the spirits in them, then you have an illness as a result. The lady in the picture is a Hmong shaman, and she's doing a couple different things to bring about balance to the spirits and whoever's affected, like using incense or using a gong to get the bad spirits away. Another construct that the Hmong people believe in is called the life visa, and it basically, some people come into the shaman, and the shaman will have to negotiate for an extension of the life visa for the person to stay alive. Or in some cases, they'll look at the patient and say, "We can't fix you. Your life visa has expired."
A traditional animist practices shamanism. They believe in multiple supreme beings, such as the existence of individual spirits that inhabit natural objects and phenomena that are separable or separate from bodies, whom they call gods. The altar is a sacred place to shamans because it is where spirits dwell. Although we'll get more into healthcare in regards to shamanism further into the presentation, I wanted to bring this picture to you guys' attention because this is a picture of a shaman who's treating a patient in front of a huge altar collection.
So what specifically does a shaman do? A shaman is a community figure that the spirits choose that's able to communicate with the spirit world. And in some of the readings that I did said that they get chosen by the spirits when they get sick as a kid, and for some reason they're able to communicate with the spirits better, or either they need a shaman's help, and a shaman thinks that they have a gift to communicate with the spirits. The shaman is able to heal by communicating with either the spirits of ancestors, or appeasing wandering or angry spirits, or by negotiating for an extension of the life visa. I included a picture of this hog that's being sacrificed because one of the ways to appease an angry spirit is by offering it a sacrifice. So, got a picture of them tying up a hog, and they sacrifice it, and hopefully the spirits will be happy and the patient will be healed. Hmong people believe that the spirits of their ancestors can influence their life. We discussed that they left their homeland, and that's created a deep cultural loss. They left behind their ancestors and the spirits of their ancestors. So a shaman can play the key role to be able to communicate with the spirits of the ancestors that the Hmong people that are here have left behind. So the shaman is a big deal culturally because it can link the current person with their ancestors, which is a really big deal in Hmong culture. The next big piece of content that we need to address are context and assumptions. So, how does this health related issue relate to the culture, or how does shamanism fit into the Hmong people? How does shamanism affect healthcare delivery? Well, it's dependent on the person because they may choose to go to a shaman first and then a Western doctor, or they may go to a Western doctor first and then a shaman, or they may choose to do both at the same time. I think the literature showed a lot of times that if a Western medical doctor is unable to determine the cause of an illness, usually that's when a shaman gets called in to see if maybe it's a spiritual illness as opposed to a physical ailment.
Illness is thought to be caused by many different factors. This includes external factors such as accidents and infectious diseases, heredity, metaphysical imbalance, which is similar to the Chinese concept of yin and yang, weather, stress, and reckless behavior. A common belief of the Hmong Americans is that an illness can be a result of the soul wandering from the body, unable to find its way home. The soul may be lost due to injury, wounds, a fall, a loud noise, being unconscious, fear, or feeling sad and lonely.
Cultural factors affecting healthcare. Immunizations. Traditionally not acceptable. Hmong believe it is not a good idea to put something into their bodies. If a person is immunized or has surgery, he or she will be reincarnated with less than a complete body or a body with something foreign in it. However, most Hmong parents will have their children immunized once they know it is required for school or other activities. Surgery. Usually not acceptable. Opening the body allows the soul to escape. Soul loss is one of the Hmong's greatest health concerns. However, in some cases, with the support of the clan shaman and leader, the Hmong will consider surgery. Organ donation and blood transfusions are traditionally both unacceptable. A lot of younger Hmong, however, are more accepting to these medical procedures. Spiritual healing rituals are common, often conducted in a home or even in a hospital. Spiritual healing involves retrieving a lost soul from another plane of existence. The practice of soul calling during ritualistic ceremonies is performed by a shaman. The picture I included is of a Hmong shaman performing a ceremony intended to summon the runaway soul of a patient. They are at Mercy Medical Center, that's in Merced, California. In 2009, Mercy implemented new Hmong shaman policy, the country's first. It formally recognizes the cultural role of traditional healers, inviting them to perform non-approved ceremonies in the hospital, including soul calling and chanting in a soft voice. Social factors affecting healthcare. Traumatic experience of war and its aftermath left impact on health. The Hmong were victims of or witness to terror. Most people lost loved ones during or after the war. Post-traumatic stress disorder may be prevalent among Hmong in the United States. U.S. studies have shown high rates of depression, often related to Hmong refugee experience, or especially to Hmongs having a hard time adjusting to life in the U.S. The pictures I included, the top one shows some Hmong soldiers in their homeland after completing training from the U.S. government to fight as soldiers. And the second one is a picture of some Hmong in Thailand who are walking along the streets after being displaced.
The first approach to healing are home therapies. Medicine plants are grown in home gardens or imported from Thailand, and most homes have a family member who's capable and educated on how to administer these herbs. They can be made into many forms, such as teas or ointments, and this is a picture of some of the herbs that those of the Hmong culture use. For more unusual or serious problems, people seek help from folk medicine doctors, ritual healers, and shamans. These healers can heal physical, mental, or spiritual distress. The medicine doctor specializes in healing with herbs, and the ritual healer learns his craft from other healers, healing power, and helping spirits. He calls on healing spirits with Laotian and Chinese words and incense. Shamans' primary means are to travel to the spiritual world. Shamans' ceremonial tools include a gong and a wooden bench, and rituals involving going into trance, long chanting, and sacrificing animals, and they're usually chickens or pigs. So the picture on the left is showing a Hmong shaman blessing a young pregnant woman, and the picture on the right is of a gong, which is commonly used by shamans in ceremonies. Hmongs also may wear accessories such as red necklaces, bracelets, or anklets. They may also be seen wearing white cloths around their wrists. These are worn to ward off evil spirits, and you can see people of all age wearing them, especially infants, and then they'll be called protection string or amulets. If home remedies aren't working, the Hmongs have other healing techniques that are more physical. The most common one that we all know is massaging, and then also coining and spooning is used, which involves rubbing heated oil on the skin, most commonly the chest, back, or shoulders, and then strongly rubbing a coin or spoon over the area in a linear fashion until a red mark is seen. They see this as a means of a doorway for the wind to get out because they believe that too much wind in the blood is the cause of many illnesses. And so the coining or the spooning will bring the blood to the surface where the wind can be released. This picture shows the technique of cupping. Cupping involves injecting heat into a cup, which is then placed on a part of the skin, and the suction adheres the cup firmly in place, which is what produces the bruise. This is also a technique used to release the wind from the body. This is a fruit called hayu, which in Hmong means nutmeg. It is used to cure the common cold either by chewing slowly the seeds inside or by cooking it and applying it externally to the neck and other parts of the body.
Missteps most likely made by U.S. healthcare providers with the Hmong. Verbal and nonverbal communications. Hmong may not communicate dissatisfaction with regards to the quality of their healthcare directly. They may not feel comfortable with speaking up or asking questions. Instead, they may politely refuse care and go somewhere else for treatment. Avoid addressing Hmong women by their first name. Use Miss or Mrs. and a last name. Eye contact. Hmong people tend to listen attentively to healthcare professionals, but will often avoid direct eye contact because it is considered rude in their culture. Be aware of your body language. Use a normal tone of voice. Be aware of body language. Hmong who don't speak English fluently will listen intently and interpret what it is being said by tone of voice and body language. Missteps continue. Hmong perceive that the student doctor, or as we call them, a resident, are there to learn and that the Hmong people are used for practice. They feel that the treatment that those doctors give are not for the benefit of the patient, but for the doctor who needs to learn and practice their skills. Generally, Hmong patients expect that they will receive medicine when they visit a doctor. If the patient doesn't receive anything, there is less a chance of the person returning for a follow-up appointment or seeking future healthcare services. If the patient, especially an elder Hmong person, does not receive any medicine, it is appropriate to explain to the patient the reason no medication was given. Some healthcare providers may not be fully aware of traditional healing practices. Many Hmong Americans continue to utilize the service of shamans. Healthcare providers may not be comfortable with their patient seeking care from a shaman. Shamans who care for patients in the U.S. may also feel resentment, disrespect, and frustration for similar reasons. A mutual awareness and understanding can facilitate a process that ultimately serves the needs of the patient and the providers. The gender roles in the Hmong culture have a big uneven gap of respect. In traditional Hmong culture, Hmong women are often lower than Hmong men. Fathers have a higher status in public because they are the head of the family. The mothers tend to stay home, but they are the leader at home, performing all tasks that need to be done, like cooking, cleaning, and raising the children. It is often women who will converse with the healthcare providers, but men usually will make decisions related to healthcare. The elderly get the most respect of all members of the family and are consulted when important decisions need to be made. The elderly remain with the family throughout their life. Grandmothers may or may not actually be present during healthcare visits, but they typically make key decisions about managing illness in the family. Clan leader. All adult members of a Hmong clan help in selecting their leaders. A leader must be deemed honest, respectful, and capable of making wise decisions. The leader is often the person in the clan who decides whether to go forward with a surgery or whether to resuscitate a patient. Religious leader. A clan leader is often assisted in decision making by a religious leader called a shaman. Some Hmong shamans are very powerful. They may make the decisions related to spiritual healing. When dealing with a Hmong family, confidentiality is considered to be a very important issue. However, within the family itself, confidentiality may not be thought of as all that important, and families may make caregiving decisions together. A conference may need to involve all important family decision makers, including the clan leader and a shaman.
The central unit of social organization in Hmong communities is the clan. Clans are determined by the line of inheritance, which is from the great-great-grandfather of the family, and the traditional ceremonies practiced. Within a Hmong community, you can tell who has the same ancestors by the family practices within the ceremonies. And because the entire clan is family, the Hmong families are very large and extended. In regards to marriage, the man stays in his same clan for his entire life. A woman marries into the clan of her husband's family, and mutual assistance is expected between all clan members. So because of that, I added this quote saying, clearly collective identity is central to the Hmong way of life. Picture is the name of all 18 clans present in the United States, but only 12 are seen as the main clans. Adding on to clan leaders as a cultural factor. Within their political system, they are a fairly tight-knit group. Many community leaders were once old clan leaders, politicians from Laos, or they're their descendants and relatives of old clan leaders. For example, the Hmong general whom commanded the Hmong forces when they fought against the communist North Vietnamese remained a political leader in the Hmong American community until his passing in 2011.
Next question we're going to address is question number 12, overviews of the ways that non-Western culture is connected to the U.S. and any other major world regions. All right, we'd already discussed that the Hmong people came over after helping the U.S. in the Vietnam War. And how they really got tied into it was the CIA was waging a war in Laos, even though we were technically supposed to be in Vietnam, and the Hmong people were given guns and aid to help stop supply lines going down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Um, the first wave of immigrants of Hmong people came from refugee camps that were established in Thailand. When the refugee camps closed, the ones that didn't come to the U.S. went to France, Canada, Papua New Guinea, and Australia, and they've been coming over from refugee camps since 2000, as late as 2004. The Hmong people originated in China, but they spread to other places like Laos, Burma, and Thailand, and they lived up high in the mountains and were subsistence farmers. So it's not like they had a lot of trade or medical tourism or anything like that. While they were in Asia, they had a variety of names, including Miao, Mio, and Miaozi, and all those names mean barbarian. So they weren't really at home, even in their own country, really. Not accepted by the main culture in each one of those countries. The U.S. eventually pulled out of Vietnam, and when the U.S. pulled out, they didn't give any kind of aid to the Hmong people. So the communists in Laos took over and pretty much want to systematically annihilate all the Hmong people that were their enemies. So that's how they ended up going to the refugee camps in Thailand. Instead of going by the previous derogatory names after the war when they came to America, they prefer to be called Hmong, which means free. Here in the U.S., the biggest groups of Hmong people are in California, Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Michigan. And currently they have a lower socioeconomic status than the other Asian groups that are here in the U.S., but that's because of difficulties like having language barriers in first generation immigrants. But the second and third generations are closing that achievement gap, and hopefully they will flourish here.
Cultural factors in relation to environment. Many Hmong in the United States continue to practice some form of Hmong animist tradition. Some practices have undergone changes due to restrictive factors in the new environment. Illness is seen as having either spiritual or physical causes. Typical physical causes are exposure to environmental factors and unsuitable dietary factors, including hot and cold food imbalances.
There are three environmental factors affecting the healthcare of Hmong people. One being prevalent diseases. It is understood when Hmong people arrived in the United States, they brought three diseases with them, such as viral hepatitis, parasitic infections, and tuberculosis. Data reported by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention states that hepatitis B continues to be a main concern within its population. The climate of Laos is a tropical monsoon, meaning between the months of May and November it's rainy, and between the months of December and April it's dry. This causes limitations for Hmong people living in the highland of Laos. As a result, they practice the slash and burn agriculture, which is a farming technique involving cutting and burning of forest or woody area so they can grow food. Lastly is natural disasters or natural hazards, such as droughts, floods, and a huge current environmental issue, such as landmines. Picture to the right is a survivor of a landmine. Fact is, landmines that were planted during the Vietnam War era continue to hurt and kill residents of Laos today. When providing healthcare services for Hmong people, it is very important to be considerate of time and space. They view time as cyclical, repetitive, and slowly advancing, meaning it's very recurrent. If anything, nothing changes. Information such as healthcare appointments should be written down and carefully explained for a Hmong person. If you're expected to receive back a consent form, extra time should be allowed for them because more than likely they need to discuss with Hmong elders and their family members to make final decisions. In regards to space, it needs to be respected by displaying general etiquette. One thing such as direct eye contact. Making direct eye contact with a Hmong person while speaking with them is seen as very rude and inappropriate. Instead, you should talk to them or listen to them talk while looking down or looking away. Also, traditionally in Hmong elders, they absolutely do not want you to touch their heads or the heads of their children. This is based off religious beliefs and their personal value.